Chancellor, I know no one seems to want to discuss this, but if we're to be prepared for any eventuality, then it can't be ignored any longer.
Time to invest, both in the requisite surgical skills and perhaps in any industry associated with this vicious and unconscionable fad, primarily entangling, as such things so often do, the youthful and female. And I'm not taking down that tweet or acknowledging that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Spoilers for Andor Season 2 in 3, 2, 1. All right, so we got a hot take from Star Wars Theory. SA in Star Wars feels unnecessary. You can portray power dynamics and making the audience hate the Empire in other ways without taking it to such a disgusting place. Vader wouldn't tolerate that shit, nor does the Empire condone it. How do you know that? How do you know that? It has no place in Star Wars, period. Unnecessary. My dude, they are space Nazis. That's who they are. There's no denying that. That's what the Empire is, was, will be. Darth Vader is not above what is tantamount to torture. One example is choking someone with the Force. What about all the younglings? What about that? You acting like the Empire is above any kind of assault on anyone is laughable, ignorant, and desperate.
I want more.
It smells of desperation.
And these were dark. They were sexy, they were violent, they were just absolutely wonderful, complicated, challenging. I mean, it would have blown up the whole Star Wars universe. And Disney definitely would have never offered George to buy the But
I feel like we live in, like there's those timelines where like some shit goes wrong and you just get this like crap, like Back to the Future 2 when Marty went back to the 80s and it was like this skewed timeline where like Biff was like king of the land. I feel like that's the one we live in right now.
it's a complete wimp. No, they were, it's one of the great disappointments of our life.
That line got me, man. It's one of the great disappointments of our life because it's just after saying that Disney would never have purchased it because this would have blown up the Star Wars universe so huge. And it would have been so violent and just changed the whole scene of Star Wars in general that Disney would want nothing to do with it because it wouldn't really be that much of a family brand anymore. It would be like Game of Thrones, I'm guessing.
Stuff about it that, I would say is cause for concern, considering some of the rumors that we've heard about it. This trailer definitely doesn't do anything to squash those rumors. In fact, I think it kind of lends more credibility to them. I'm not going to do a full watch and react. I'm just going to kind of go through this and pick out some of the parts that I think kind of stand out to me, or some of the stuff.
I'm not going to do a full watch and react. I'm just going to go through and like nitpick things out of context and that confirm my bias of what I already was told by Nerdrotic, and I'm going to think about this.
Who the fuck is this asshole?
Here's the thing.
It's the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. It's clobbering time.
Probably stuff like that. What am I thinking of? But yeah, like it hasn't scared me. I know it's like Chinese, I think.
You know, the question I get asked most often is, Tony, how do you go to the bathroom in the suit? Just like that.
Any of you incels, QAnon, 4chan, Snyder Cut motherfuckers want to get on the line now? Anybody?
Oh, somebody, please! They got the children!
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
Oh yeah.
That's the good.
Ask yourself,
So good.
what's more terrifying, fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
It's still the frightened. Every time I ask myself that question, it's always
yeah.
I keep waiting, like maybe I'm gonna be scared of just being scared or something. Like no, there's always these people, these motherfuckers.
These.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of them want to be motherfuckers, but they're not because they're obsessed with breeding.
The kind of people that demands to know how you spot a homosexual.
Yeah.
Like because if they don't know how to spot it, what are they going to do about it? What are they going to do?
What do you do?
You do nothing. You don't do anything. You know. No, but I need to know. I need to know how. I don't want. Is there one around me? Oh my God! There's one behind me. Isn't there? You know.
There's one right below. No.
There's one under me right now. There's one inside of me. Okay,
maybe there might be. I mean,
take that how you want. Take that as like a metaphysical kind of like existential thing, identity thing, or take that as just like the other thing. Anyway,
just take it.
Just take it. Take it like a man. Take it like a bitch. However you want to take it. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Where's Bob? It's off the rails without him.
Bob has been deployed on an operation by Central Command.
Okay.
So we'll have to deal without him.
This makes me happy to see Screwface Capone because that is one of the dozen or so tracks that I have been working with, writing some lyrics and recording some stuff too. I don't know if that one's going to make the final cut of this first batch of music though, because it's like one of the first ones that I've had that I really love that one. It's probably my favorite one, nice. But that makes it harder to write to because I want it to be worth it.
That's fair.
So I've got some other ones. I was trying to get one done today. Really more of the one that I didn't quite have done the other day that in hindsight I should have waited on to debut.
It happens.
I'm so hyped, anyways, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the fact that I've kept it inside for so long that I am superior. I am neurosuperior to pretty much anybody who's not neurodivergent. Because we're just better. We're just born better. We operate better. They've got all this cope going on. They get guys like RFK Jr. like to stand up there and go, well, is that a good impression? I haven't tried it before, so hopefully this comes out okay. But
damn. Well, it's not quite as good as your Jordan Peterson impersonation. So
we'll work on it. But they got these autistic people and they don't make any money. I make money, man. What are you talking about?
Says a man who has never worked in an IT department before.
Never really probably worked a day in his life as far as like work like you and I know it.
Right.
And, and he's born into wealth and almost certainly, look, not trying to be crass here, but he would almost certainly just be dead of a heroin overdose many times over if he was not who he is.
Yeah.
In the face that he was born
to. The number of things he has done, or he'd be in jail, right? Because things like chopping off a whale head, or like trying to hide a bear carcass in Central Park, right? Those are things that normal people don't just like go about their lives on.
the kind of crazy shit that he just has said. That's like anytime I've looked up something about it, it's just like he's got some crazy claim. Most people don't experience this stuff because most people don't have essentially limitless wealth. I don't know that he has the Kennedy family wealth anymore, but he's had enough of it for long enough that he could build his own thing.
Right.
And then they also, they are held accountable for their actions. Most people,
yeah.
Kennedy's infamously, not really.
Not really.
Whenever there's a decent one who actually wants to use a position of power to like maybe benefit the people, then he gets held accountable with a fucking bullet.
Right. Yeah. That's when a Kennedy goes too far towards doing good things, they get shot.
Thank you. You fucking yes. I literally said in the Discord today, I said I'm basically Magneto now. Okay.
You can say that once you're capable of omega level magnetic field manipulation. Otherwise,
I am capable of omega level autism.
Oh,
that's true.
I have a theory on RFK Jr.
Oh, let's hear it.
I think he's afraid of his own mental instabilities, and that's why he is so just gung-ho about medicalizing and trying to find cures for conditions that don't need curing, because he thinks he has a problem and he's trying to hide it. I don't know. I mean, but besides like several drug addictions, it would seem.
Yeah.
Like
brainworm.
And a brainworm, right? Like
the barbecued dog that he says he didn't eat, but there's a picture of him with what looks to be a grilled, like a barbecued dog carcass. I've seen that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes on trikes.
Wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, you go ahead. I need like a couple of minutes here to get something taken care of, and I'll be right back.
Sure, I'll adjust CJ's question here. So, all right. So CJH Entertainment Plus asks, can Disney sue Star Wars theory? And this is over some of their some of the lightsaber stuff that Star Wars theory sells, and the answer is probably not. I don't think the term lightsaber is copyrighted, and as long as the handle isn't an exact replica prop of the ones from the movies, there are lots of companies that sell like prop lightsabers. They usually call them something different just to avoid that, but they're very clearly, a 1.5 to 2 meter plastic blade that is some shade of blue, red, yellow, purple, or green, and has a sort of retro sci-fi looking handle about yay big in it. So, but probably not. If he is like Star Wars lightsaber made by Star Wars Theory, whatever his real name is, I don't know, I don't care. Then yeah, probably. But I think otherwise there's not really grounds for it, and it's sort of small potatoes for Disney to, especially for Lucasfilm to do.
I kind of have a bit of a different take. Maybe I only heard some of that, but like it seems like, did you say that they really don't have a grounds to? Because I think they do.
So as long as it's not an exact replica of one from the movies, then I don't think
still they could probably still go after him if they wanted to. But like you said, he's small potatoes. He's not selling enough to like they're not seeing any kind of shortage of their toy lightsabers off of that shit. Or whatever model ones that they actually make. Do they make any? I don't know.
Yeah, they Lucas Licensing does license out several different lightsaber toys of varying quality, from like the little extendo ones to like full theater quality props.
I mean, just the fact that they look like kind of similar, it doesn't really matter. I think if the hilt was exactly the same as one in the movie, that's like a known one, that would be a problem.
That would be a problem, yeah.
But I think otherwise you get into the area of anything that is a sword with a laser light coming out of it can be sued, and that's not really. I don't think it's something that they can sustain.
Yeah, we're past the point of being able to sue for that. Just because even if 40 years ago Lucas had the trademark, had like the that is a trademark or whatever, a copyright, whatever one you would need for that. I'm not a copyright lawyer.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
that hasn't been vigorously defended in so many things, and so many items out there are very clearly just knockoff lightsabers. It would be weird to single him out. He'd have I think a pretty good case in court.
Angle, to CJH's point, though, the angle that could make it potentially possible that they might like, you know what, we can't have this, is that his channel is called Star Wars Theory, and then his brand is called Theory Sabers, and it's like, okay, clearly there's something being referenced there heavily. So
yeah,
I mean, but I don't know if that'd be worth it for them either. But I mean, that would be not that he can't sell them. That would probably just be like, you need to not call your shit this or something. I don't know, but
yeah, they would have to. Yeah,
but I think the main thing is that if you remember when Paramount, CBS came out with their fucking very, very specific rules for fan films for Star Trek.
Yeah,
it was quite a backlash. Yeah. And I was kind of, I'm not backlash really, but I was like, damn, dude, this is not a good look for you guys. You know what I mean? Like to come out and say, this is how you have to do a fan film if it's going to be a fan film. I think there would be some of that backlash if this happened. So
yeah, the lightsaber, especially when it comes to like Star Wars fan films and stuff, and like Star Wars fan things, Lucasfilm has always been very hands off with that community, as long as they are not replicating something specifically from the movie, or if they are, then not selling that thing and just having it be a freely available content out there.
I mean, how do you know they were taken down for that specifically? But we will move on from this topic actually.
Okay,
that is an interesting thing to discuss.
I will have to look into that for future. I don't know anything about that, so we'll have to look into that for the future, for a future topic. But we are on a bit of a schedule tonight.
Yeah, we got short amount of time. Well, I mean, 2 hours, but we can get it done. I've got here just, this is worth the time. 15 just kind of weird things about RFK Jr.
Pop those bad boys up on the screen.
Oh man, I have to just put it over here. I'll just read them because
okie dokie.
Yeah. I don't know this publication. I don't want to promote them.
Sure.
So, during a 2012 hearing related to his second divorce, Kennedy said that an abnormal finding on his brain scan was caused by a worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died. So,
the famous brain worm.
A few things to unpack there. I mean, like, so did it die because it ate some of his brain? Like, it just poisoned him? Was there so many drugs in his brain still, like just in his brain juice, that this thing got fucked up and overdosed? I don't know. That sounds like a science to me, sure.
It depends on the worm. Like if it's a worm that requires, because not all worms need to breathe open air, it might have just suffocated. If it needed to breathe in water, there's not a lot of like the chemistry in your brain is not just like fresh water.
This is just a Substack. I'll share it. Okay. He admitted to comedian Roseanne Barr. I take issue with that. That he had put a dead bear in his car. The bear had been hit by a car not driven by him. Well, that's good. So he wasn't following in his uncle's footsteps as far as like there's a whole accident thing, right? Anyway, his plan was to skin the bear and put the meat in his refrigerator. And now I wonder if this is related to the previous thing, because I don't know if you guys know this. Bears are not something you should eat, specifically because of things like worms,
parasites. Yeah.
But
like
he had
you can't eat bear meat, but like it has to be prepared very specifically to not get parasites.
But he had an early flight the next day and didn't want to leave a dead bear in his car. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah,
that's polite.
So he brought it to Central Park and staged it to look like the bear had been killed in a bike. Well, that's the logical thing to do, right? Why the fuck?
And like, if you or I did this, like, we'd be up shit.
Yeah. Also, a bike accident killed a bear. What the fuck is?
Well, there was a guy was bike jousting. That's what it was. He was like,
oh my god! As president, I won't take sides on 9/11 or any of the other debates. What? Yeah, I mean, you had very fine people on both sides, famously of 9/11.
Like, won't take sides like between Al Qaeda and the United States, or between like the United States and conspiracy theorists in the unit. Like, what are the sides here? I have questions.
There's no sides that are like, they're all bad. Okay, there's some of them are rapists, probably. Mexicans too. Anyway,
Jesus Christ.
In July 2023, he said, "I believe that autism comes from vaccines." But I think what evidence of this, other than Andrew Wakefield's fucking many times debunked bullshit?
There is no evidence for it. The amount of evidence that exists is zero. There is none, not a zip, zero.
Ironically,
Zilch.
because of the claim, there has been so much evidence that pushes against it that exists that it should be overwhelming to anybody that's actually looking for evidence.
Right. Yeah. If you would like to know if vaccines cause autism, there's none. If there's evidence that vaccines don't cause autism, there's plenty.
Yeah, but I think most the things people believe about my opinions about vaccines are wrong. Except you just said the thing that I think most people think that you think.
That you just said the thing we don't. Yeah.
So we're not wrong. In 2021, he said regarding mandatory COVID vaccinations for public schools that the vaccine was the deadliest vaccine ever made.
That's not true.
There's literally, once again, it's almost like his brain interprets information the opposite way.
Yeah, he's just I've got it.
That's what the brainworm does?
No, okay, the brainworm died because the brainworm is a false alarm. The brainworm died because it tried to eat his brain, and his brain is from Bizarre World. He's Bizarre World JFK Jr. They got switched.
Oh no.
Am I like
he promotes drinking raw milk, which the food, I mean, it is unsafe. It just is. It's not good for you to drink. Yes, you can drink raw milk and not fucking get sick, maybe. But like, if on a regular basis, you were just opening yourself up to all kinds of problems.
Problems with distributing milk and things like toxins and parasites in raw milk is one of the reasons we have the FDA.
Yeah. He suggests, here's where it gets really yikesy. He suggested the HIV virus does not cause AIDS. Wow. Crazy, man. They were doing phony, crooked studies to develop a cure that killed people without really being able to understand what HIV was.
Okay, so I want to touch on the kernel of truth there.
Okay.
Because yes, a lot of experimentation was done on HIV patients to figure out what the hell was going on, because HIV is a nasty fucking virus. And so, yes, a lot of experimentation was done on patients. And because the medical establishment isn't particularly careful about how it treats minorities, some of those experiments were not handled ethically.
Oof.
But HIV still causes AIDS.
Yes. Although, up until the previous, pretty recently, whenever Musk and Trump defunded USAID, it had grown increase impressively less likely to lead to AIDS.
Yeah, you could the HIV medication that exists today.
It's crazy how fucking good
it's crazy how good it is.
But considering where it was 20 years ago, it's
and just between that and his COVID vaccine scaremongering, the COVID vaccine is maybe one of the greatest medical miracles of all time, just in terms of how fast they were able to develop it, how well the mRNA vaccines work, the applicability of that technology to other vaccines, everything. It literally a miracle of globalization.
Do you think Trump tells him, hey, chill out on that whole thing, because that's one of the only objectively good things that I was responsible for?
No, because Trump has walked all that stuff back, because his base, even while Trump was still in office, he was walking that stuff back and talking out of both sides of his mouth. Because the Republican base is very anti-vaccine now because of people like RFK Jr. and Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I mean, but look, it is kind of impressive when somebody can talk out of both sides of their mouth. Right? This next one earns this drop. Let me go ahead and do this.
Now let's talk about the Transformers agenda, aka they're putting chemicals in the energon and trying to turn our bots gay.
So he said children's genders can be influenced by chemicals in the water.
Get out.
Just pursue one question on these, the other endocrine disruptors, because our children now, we're seeing these impacts that people suspect are very different than in ages past about sexual identification among children and sexual confusion, gender confusion. You are confused, my man. You are very confused about what you're saying.
Here is what happened. In a very narrow window of time in American history, we decided it was okay for people to express those questions openly and not be fucking bullied, assaulted, or killed.
Yeah.
And people did.
Yeah.
Because they were, for the first time, allowed to ask those questions without a threat of violence against them. And that was so disruptive to your narrow fucking worldview that you all collectively lost your goddamn minds and have to make up shit about it. Because otherwise, you just have to accept that your perception of reality was wrong. And that's hard.
I mean, these are people that probably, like, a lot of these people just eat raw meat too.
Oh, so fun fact about the raw milk community. There was an outbreak of, I forget what disease, in some raw milk. And people were like, well, what do we do about it? And someone suggested, hey, I started cooking my raw milk after I got it and like boiling it to try and like sterilize the milk. Like they reverse discovered pasteurization.
That's just like that episode of The Simpsons where at the end they decide they're not going to have a government, but then they need to figure out a way to like organize everything so that everything, all the needs are met for the community and stuff, and they just come up with a government.
Yeah. It's like the crypto industry. The crypto industry was supposed to be this unregulated secondary economy, but has just slowly been like reinventing banking regulations from like the 1940s.
Yep.
It's just like, we did this already. We already know what's going to happen. You could skip ahead. No. We gotta do it the hard way.
Here he goes talking about fucking hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, Rogan shit. He's said there's tremendous circumstantial evidence linking psychiatric drugs to mass shootings. No, it's so fucking absurd to think that it just shows you can't process basic information. It's the same thing as when we talked about video games and violence and stuff. It's like if you have 3/4 of young people playing video games, then yeah, more than likely the ones that do a shooting are video game players. Just like back in the day, what Wortham did with the comic book code or the comics, he would interview these kids and say, well, have you ever been in a fight or whatever? Yeah. Do you read comics? Yeah. Well, most kids read comics.
Right. It's just like, correlation does not equal causation.
Right.
And when you look at the statistics, there's two interesting things statistically. One, schools that have better access to mental health services and anti-bullying programs have less school violence.
Like, this guy legitimately upsets me because he is so anti-science, and yet for some reason people seem to take him seriously about science.
Well, I can tell you part of why that is. One, there is a segment of people who call themselves skeptics, and this is where a lot of like vaccine denialism on the left comes from, where they assume anything from like established professionals is a lie.
Yeah.
And he is not an established professional, he's a politician. And if you're a person who can like chain thoughts together, you go, well, that's probably worse actually as far as honesty goes.
They see him you're right, but I think they also see him as like he's a politician to some, sure, if that's what they want to look at him as, but for a lot of people, he is the product of a political dynasty that has chosen to step outside of it and to criticize it and to say, this is, I know what's really going on because I was born in it, I was raised in it, you know what I mean? And so like they see him as being another, how they love Trump for being someone that blows up the discourse.
Right. Yeah. There's that's that anti-authoritarian.
Yeah. So the CIA was involved with the assassination of his uncle, JFK. Maybe. Could be.
Maybe.
I mean, I don't think there's any evidence that shows that any more than what the official story is, but
This is one of those things that like a lot of people have a lot of conspiracy theories about the JFK assassination, and my professional opinion is he has been dead for half a century. The people involved in his assassination are all basically dead.
The immediate people, if there was any cover up, the ones who immediately did that are probably dead.
So like now we are just chasing ghosts.
Well, I mean, so the interest for me in JFK's assassination is that not in who did it or anything like that. I more or less just kind of think that the official narrative, as far as I understand it, makes sense to me. A lot of it's based on like, oh, he couldn't have, been that good of a shot or whatever. And it's like, well, he actually was a very good shot.
He was a very good shot.
He was a sharpshooter. But like, no. So the thing that interests me is that as a cultural and political moment, being not just the death of JFK, but the death of like American innocence in a way, like political innocence. Like, and then after that was Watergate, and everything just became much more cynical and fucking underhanded and gross and tribal after that. It seems like,
because we've had presidents assassinated before, but I think there's something different about we all watched it. Like even as people who were born after the fact, right? We have all watched the assassination of JFK.
Yeah,
that's different than just like in 1964 reading about, or 1965 whenever my brain is dying as far as when Lincoln got assassinated, and I feel dumb. But
November 22nd, 1963. I know that because that was however many decades prior to the first time that I ever played with a band on stage live was on November 22nd, 2003.
Nice. So, yeah. That's a fun fact. So Lincoln's assassination, like, sure, I would have read about it in a newspaper, right? That's not the same as like watching it happen and being able to rewind it and to watch it happen again.
Back and to the left. Back.
That's from a movie.
Yeah, it's from a movie called JFK.
I think so, yeah. Reagan was almost killed just to impress Jodie Foster.
True. And look, I don't know if Hinckley, is that his name? I don't know if he's watching. Hinckley. I honestly think that she would be really impressed if. Never mind. You know what I'm saying. You got it, buddy.
We never did get her comment on the Trump. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh yeah,
we did have that. We titled the stream that. Yeah.
The day that his ear got hit by a piece of glass, a bullet hit. I named the stream something like, we're waiting to hear from Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
All right. Here's just 15 things, and most of them are either stupid and harmless, but several of them are extremely harmful. Extremely harmful.
Yeah.
So what did he say most recently that has me all riled up?
Right. So now before, like we all knew a lot of this stuff. I think a lot of us listening, I knew over half of it.
Okay.
But what did he do now, Dane?
He said some shit that let me find it. About autistic people. In particular, he said that I want to find the exact quote, because man, some of the way he says stuff, it's like you're not even trying to say this in a way that certain, I don't know, that people that don't already agree with you might give you some leeway. He's saying it in the most fucked up way. Here's what it boils down to. Just like with the sin of empathy, just like with Trump and all the right making a big deal out of that pastor just saying, hey, don't be overly mean to the immigrants that you're kicking out of the country, all that stuff. Just like they have determined, they have decided, they've been told, the ruling class has been determined that basically they're going to have to figure some shit out if they want to keep making money off and exploiting off of people. They've got to keep the money coming, and one of the ways that they can do that, one of the ways that they can seem like they're affecting the budget and the debt and stuff like that in the U.S. and without actually doing anything about those problems, is by because they're actually just putting money in their own pockets for one thing, but on the other hand, they're going to be pointing at some other stuff that just really isn't even close to going to solve the problem or related to the problem or anything like that, and they're going to blame that. So sorry, I need to be looking for this instead of trying to talk at the same time, and I'm fucking it up.
Okay, so to broadly go over while you're finding what you're looking for, one of the things authoritarian regimes do is they find things to make themselves look busy.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the intersection between anti-autism and anti-trans rhetoric, is that a lot of it is fueled by parents whose children are not who they want them to be.
Mm-hmm. And they take their kids to a doctor or something, and the doctor says, "Oh, your kid might have autism," or
right,
your kid is expressing things that suggest that maybe they identify with the different gender than what they were assigned.
Right.
And parents, rather than go, "Oh,
Okay.
that's interesting. I should see what I need to do. We should explore this further, see if it's true for one thing,
Right.
but also support whatever the outcome of that is." Right.
Right.
No. So there's some parents that just they can't be. They only see to their children as literal fucking just extensions of themselves.
Right. Property. They see their children as property, and they never stop seeing their children as property. Well past them entering adulthood. So much so that some of them will see things like grandchildren as property.
And I mean the thing that these both have in common, obviously, is because they're being diagnosed far more.
Right.
Is the people think that is once again causation and correlation. They think that, oh well, and you'll literally see them say this. Back when in the 70s there weren't so many autistic people and trans people. It's like, yeah, there probably were, just about, even if they didn't know that about themselves, they existed. Even if they didn't have the language to fully process that oh, this is why I feel so fucking weird in my body, because I'm actually trans, because there was not enough information around or whatever it was. And definitely with autism as well. Myself, for an example, I was misdiagnosed at 10 years old as bipolar.
And that was really common back when you were that age.
Occurrence in the early 90s, kids my age. It's so crazy to look back and look into that. It's like, wow, this is not just a me thing. This was something that happened a lot. They don't even diagnose bipolar at kids that age anymore because the brains are still developing. My parents had been through a divorce that probably played some role into but my stepmom came into the scene. She was kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
She still is. And I would kind of be defiant, and then I would have like autistic meltdowns or whatever the fuck was happening. And they like, oh, there's something wrong with him. He's got an emotional thing going on. And I probably did have depression or whatever, needed some counseling for sure.
Sure.
But like, I was not bipolar. And it took me into my adulthood after taking bipolar medication and treating myself for that for a long time to really kind of break it down and look at my habits and go, wait a second. I don't have manic moments. I don't have manic episodes.
Right.
I get depressed sometimes, but it's not even like really something that, and it just didn't line up. And I finally got out of, I basically was seeing doctors. Every new doctor that I would see into adulthood would just base their treatment off of the previous doctor.
The previous diagnosis, and no one would do a new diagnosis.
Yep. And only whenever I got out of fucking Texas, for one thing, where I was having to use state-funded, crappy medical care, get to Oregon, and it's state-funded, the stuff I was using here too, but it's generally better.
Right.
And they were like, well, that doesn't make any sense if you don't have manic episodes. And we started looking at some other things, and I was in my late 30s when I realized that I'm actually on the autism spectrum. And once I started looking into that, every fucking thing started making sense. All the stuff that seems to make sense. Stuff that I never even realized was kind of a weird experience for me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, like, oh, that's framed. Oh God, that's that explains so much.
Right. This is the importance of expansive diagnostic criteria, because when it comes to mental health, a lot of symptoms exist across a spectrum of conditions, right?
Wait,
so like
in ASD, doesn't that mean autism spectrum disorder? So like,
it's
not just one thing. Interesting.
But even things like how a person, so like fixation, right? An autistic person can have a fixation on something. A person with ADHD can have a fixation on something, and a person with anxiety can have a fixation on something. But those are all different things. And once once a clinician breaks down, so why are you fixating on this? Like, what about it? And sort of talks through it and studies what's going on, you can find out what the root cause is and how, if it needs treatment, how to treat it. Or if it just, and treatment might just be therapy, right? It might just be talk therapy. Who knows?
I mean, I think that generally, if you have, if you are on the spectrum enough that you to say like I am autistic, which I think I am, existence can be traumatic,
right? Yeah, and for sure.
Just because of hypersensitivity to things that other people don't even notice,
right?
And so other people are going about their days with their loud music or honking horns or whatever the fuck it is, and you're just like, I feel like Matt Murdock right now. I haven't learned how to process my super hearing yet.
Right.
Daredevil reference. Hell yeah.
So good.
So anyway, point being that let me hear. I found his quote, by the way. This is fucking insane.
This is insane.
So he said that, well, he wanted to create a registry for one thing, a registry for autistic people. Which, guys, I don't know if you know much about history, but once they start making registries of people that based on like innate characteristics or like intrinsic qualities, it's not a good sign. Thankfully, it seems like they have walked that back in the last couple of days and said that no, there's not going to be a registry because they probably rightfully got the clap back that it deserved. Of course, they say they're not going to do it now. Then maybe they still will.
And that might be a thing where it's just like we're trying, like you have this internal squabbling of like fascist politics where like we want to do a thing, and then another faction within the party is like, well, we don't want you to spend that money, and then they can't spend the money.
Yeah, like the wall,
right?
So the other day there was a report released from the CDC on autism's prevalence among children that found in 1 in 31 8-year-olds have autism, up from 1 in 36 2 years before. The CDC linked the rise to better screening and awareness,
right?
Which is the exact Kennedy just saw that and said that's not true. That's not true at all. And let me tell you about this. It's really science. Like the science that he used to come up with this contradiction is fascinating because it came straight out of his asshole.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, autism refers to the neurological condition that influences how a person behaves, interacts with others, and communicates. And I think that this was the case with me. This is why, even though I knew that I wasn't bipolar for a long time, I would try out other diagnoses on my own. I'll be like, oh, looking into this and go, is this it? Do I have this?
Right.
And it was just a whole swath of things. And I came across autism and was like, no, I'm not autistic because there was that kid in high school that was autistic, right? He was very obviously autistic, and I'm not like that. So that's not me. And I just kind of blew it off. Because I was silly and didn't recognize that a spectrum literally means that I don't have to act like the kid that is to me was very obviously autistic in high school. That's not something that's defined by specific mannerisms or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, people have been coming out against that shit. I'm trying to find the quote still. God damn it! But all these websites want me to pay or sign up or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So. Yeah, it's one of those things that like diagnostic criteria gets better, and that's good for everyone. Even if you're not autistic, that the criteria for diagnosing autism is better is good for you. Because A, it will make the people who are autistic in your life have a better life.
Yep. Dude, my life has I can't even imagine, honestly, if I would even be around if I had not come to that realization 5 years ago. So, I mean, it wasn't at that point, but like things had been bad enough in the past where, having no answers for why things were the way they were and stuff. And yeah, not be able to. Anyway, point being.
Well, and even like, so here's a different example from someone who isn't autistic. I had an autism screening done recently because it was something my therapist thought might be a possibility. And because the ability to diagnose it has improved and the guidelines are more clear and there's more science, we were able to get to a better root of how my depression and my anxiety work, but I'm not actually autistic. Just fall outside of it, which is fine. But that makes treating my conditions easier because we can better rule out other conditions. So it's literally good for everyone that we have these better guidelines.
I mean, for just to be specific, by the way, and also the understanding of autism has changed pretty quickly,
radically. Yeah.
What I have, my specific brand of it, I like to jokingly say, is the autism formerly known as Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not called that anymore because Nazi.
Because Nazi, it was a Nazi.
And because also, it's not. There's high functioning or low functioning. Those don't apply medically anymore. They stopped using that stuff because essentially there's no way to refer to it that doesn't put one in some higher class than another. You know what I mean? That isn't
right.
If somebody's nonverbal or whatever, that doesn't mean that they're low functioning. They just don't communicate verbally.
Verbally, right. It's a difference of cognition and of communication, not of your ability to exist in the world.
Yep. And that's what I want to get to. That's what I want to find this fucking quote. Honestly, this is kind of good because PolitiFact, I don't think they're even sharing his full quote.
Oh my God.
Which is, they're showing all the quotes that are going against what he said. But
I wonder if I can find it on Blue Sky. We'll join the research team. All right.
So he basically said that it was it's an environmental toxin that causes it, that it is a disease. Nope. He said that it's something that that people that have autism will never work. They'll never, which, there's a whole can of worms, brain worms to open there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, so obviously what he's doing is defining a person's value, a human value, as their economic utility.
Which, okay, so the number of autistic people is approximately 1 in 38-ish.
Uh-huh.
Just think, do 1 in 38 of the people you know just not work? No. And if they don't work, how many of them are actually autistic, or are they on disability for some sort of work-related medical issue or physical issue? How many of them are retired? It's just for a guy who talks about common sense, you can apply his own common sense to his own logic, and it falls the fuck apart.
What starts to fucking throw me is thinking about, what does Elon say to this shit? He's supposed to be autistic too.
Right. He has been a big autism superiority guy, which is why I joked about putting you on my French choppy block.
That's why I'm saying I'm claiming neurosuperiority, because he clearly is not superior.
He's neuro-inferior.
But yeah, what does he say? Does he guys, I don't know, what are you doing over there, RFK Jr.? You're saying it's a disease or whatever, and we got to eradicate it.
Let them fight.
Well, but you have money. That's the difference. You got money, and that just kind of overpowers everything, right?
Seems like it.
Conversations go. Robert hasn't worked. Yeah, I mean, not really, not in the way that we all probably do. Understand work. He's done jobs. He's done stuff that
he's been a senator. He's been a U.S. senator. He's had a job. He's been a social media influencer. That's
being a heroin addict is a job in itself, man.
Yeah.
You have to take so many naps. You got to fucking find the drugs all the time.
That's work on it. Yeah, finding drugs is work, people.
So
my friend, okay, I have a complete aside, but I have to get it out, otherwise it's going to drive me insane. A friend of mine was house hunting or apartment hunting with his girlfriend, and his aunt was with him. And she said the neighborhood looked like it had drug dealers in it. And my response was, well, hey, that just means there's a lot of up and coming entrepreneurs in the neighborhood. That's a good growth community. He thought it was funny. She did not.
Okay. Was it because they're black people? Is that why?
That's probably why. Yeah.
Is that why they thought that? Anyway,
that's why they thought that. Yeah.
Racism sucks.
Yeah, racism's a thing.
Yeah, this guy is just fucking nuts. And what is his voice is from what? He had throat cancer or something? What's going on?
He had some kind of throat issue, some sort of medical issue.
Yeah. Maybe like Michael Douglas, he was eating too much pussy. That's what he says caused his. I don't know.
Okay.
And Catherine Zeta-Jones, look, I don't blame him.
Fair. Fair.
So
I would just as soon as blame the roids that RFK is doing, because RFK looks like he's juicing.
Oh yeah, I saw a couple of photos and looking through. I was like, holy shit, he's definitely got something going on. He's on this fucking fake ass fad health kick shit, except that he's just gone 150,000% in on it.
Yeah.
As far as like, I think he's anti-GMO, which by the way, we need to do a GMO episode.
We gotta do a GMO episode.
Because spoiler alert, it's generally pretty fine.
Yeah. Also, a lot of things that are like labeled non-GMO or GMO free, like that category of item.
Yeah,
there's not a GMO version of it.
Kind of a scam.
It's a big scam.
So let's make sure we got all the different things that he said here. Did you find a quote, by the way?
I am still looking.
It's hard to do while talking.
Well,
okay.
Part of the problem is so much stuff happens these days. It's hard to find. I got it. All right.
This is a preventable disease, he said on April 16th, dismissing the HHS agency report explanation for the increase. We know it's an environmental exposure. How do you know that, man? It has to be. Genes do not cause epidemics. Are you fucking stupid, you fucking moron? You called an epidemic, and that's what it is. You don't. It's not an epidemic.
It's not an epidemic.
It's so stupid. They can provide a vulnerability, but you need an environmental toxin. No, you don't. If you're starting from the position of this is a fucking epidemic and a disease, you're starting from false information, just anti-science starting point, and then you're just barreling down that direction.
Right. You're not doing a science. You are doing a pseudoscience. If I'm being polite. If I'm not being polite, you're doing religion. You have started with a, you're starting with your conclusion, which you think is true by default, right? And you are trying to find facts working backwards from your conclusion. And anything that doesn't match that is treated as, if we're being polite, if we're saying he's doing a pseudoscience, that the information is wrong for whatever reason, is incorrect. If we're being maximally uncharitable, he presumes there's some sort of malicious entity or organization responsible for it.
And what kind of entity would that be? What kind of people would they be, you think?
I am not going to speculate, but I know a lot of anti-vaxxers are very anti-Semitic.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, would they be some perhaps like chosen people that would be doing this? Nonetheless, it
always comes back there.
It typically does, yeah. I've stopped looking into conspiracy theories as much because whenever I first, I would come across a new thing and I'm like, oh shit, where did that start? Oh, okay, it goes back to that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was literally like, it's like an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
We're like, what's behind this conspiracy theory? And like Dane holds the guy down and I rip the mask off. And it's just
it's a 1920s German propaganda cartoon of
every time. It's just like, good gods. I'm embarrassed because you guys cannot get a writer.
Man. I think it's funny because I think for a lot of those people it works the same way that Scientology does.
Yeah.
And that they don't reveal to you that that's what's at the end of the fucking rainbow.
Oh no, they don't. No, that's why it's the alt-right pipeline, right? That's why that is described as the way it is. It's because it's very Scientology.
They wait until you get, you're so deep in that by the time they go, oh, it's just the Jews, man. Like, oh, okay, that's a little anticlimactic, but okay, yeah, it's the Jews, whatever. That's all I got on RFK Jr. and his dumb quote here. There's an excellent Behind the Bastards episode or 2 or 3 on him. Because
he's got quite the series on him from the Behind the Bastards people. And as Sean points out, let's say it is environmental. That's more reason not to gut the EPA to regulate lead levels in water. And like lead levels in water is a big deal. If you look at like when the country switched from leaded gasoline to unleaded gasoline, how like the level of violent crime in the population drops.
Yeah.
Because one of the things lead poisoning does is make you more irrational and violent.
Well, then, so he's anti fluoride, by the way. Which I hate to admit that I live in, if maybe one of the, if not the only major city in the U.S. that does not do fluoride in the water.
And like, I would like you to like, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, what's the big deal about fluoridating your water? I would like you to see if you can't find some pictures from public records of like what your sewers look like, what your water pipes look like. You want to get a water filter if you have the money, but if you don't and you shouldn't need it, you want fluoridated water. Yeah, kind of a big.
Bizarre that these are the same people generally that also want to drink raw milk and also don't want to protect themselves against COVID, an actual epidemic essentially.
He's denied two real, like an epidemic and a pandemic, right? He's an AIDS denialist and a COVID denialist, but he thinks autism and being trans is an epidemic, despite not remotely meeting the qualifications for any of those things. Like, it's just like fractally wrong to assert that. And he certainly doesn't have any evidence, which is why he's still trying to find evidence to make up. And by the way, he will make up evidence. We've seen this in the UK, where like a UK politician will say, we're going to do a study on this, but the study isn't really a study. It's a review of other studies, and then they'll do a synopsis of what those studies came to, except if you read the constituent studies, it contradicts the conclusion this review has. And then they'll make laws based off of that review that cherry picks quotes to contradict what the science actually is. We're going to start getting that pretty regularly here in the States.
Yay.
Yeah, don't rot your teeth. Yeah, fluoride keeps your teeth from rotting.
Oh, right. There's that too, which was a very uncomfortable exchange in his confirmation hearing.
His confirmation hearing that I would not want to play that on stream because it is so remarkably racist.
And it's like, on some level, it seems like he recognizes that too, but he's also,
because he was so evasive.
Yeah. It's amazing how these people can see one quote unquote study that they don't understand the methodology behind it or who funded it or anything like that. They don't care about that aspect of it. They just see some study that says a thing. They're like, oh, well, shit, that's true. That goes against the narrative. So I'm saying that's true.
For me personally, with the Wakefield stuff, the thing that drives me the most insane with it is all these people, and Wakefield himself is like marketed himself now as this like anti-big pharma crusader, when the reason he did that study the way he did it was so he could sell independent measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines, and as separate vaccines sell them for more money. He was doing a big, like the thing that he accuses big pharma of doing.
Yeah.
In that instance, wasn't doing it because you make the money on that in volume. It's cheap to make, and everyone needs it, and you need it.
Fucking RFK. All right. Well, we are at an hour now.
We are at an hour.
You have something that you wanted to cover before we get into the. We're gonna talk about comics. Spoiler alert.
Talk comics, but I got some stuff I want to talk about. I'm gonna blind myself quick, and I'm gonna share my old monitor. Share screen. Select a window. This one. I'm very sing-songy. Don't mind me.
That's all right. I do it all the time.
All right. Pop that bad boy up if you could.
Bink.
Boop. So, on Friday, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan of Milwaukee County, where I live.
No, is that her name? Her name is Judge? Or she's just some random woman? Or
no, she is a county circuit court judge for the county of Milwaukee.
Oh dear. That seems like a problem.
And according to the allegation, charged with 2 felonies on allegations of trying to help an undocumented immigrant avoid being arrested after he appeared in her courtroom. Except that So we've talked about this on the show before, but it's worth going over every time we get a chance to. When it comes to immigration, there's two types of warrants. The first, and the one we all think of when we think of a warrant, is a judicial warrant, wherein a member of law enforcement goes before a judge and says, I have probable cause to investigate this thing. I would like a judicial warrant, which you need to violate someone's private spaces, their personal property, etc. That is what most people think of when they hear a warrant.
Yeah.
What the ICE agents have is an administrative warrant, which is they go to someone else in ICE and say, I would like one warrant, please. And then they print off a warrant. That warrant does not have as much power. And you are on your own recognizance to comply with it. Because in the past, and this is one of the reasons I want to get into this, it's sort of why we didn't do this in the past. Because obviously we've had ICE for a while. Before that, we had CPB and immigration handling these immigration cases. Why, even in the prior Trump administration, we weren't just regularly sending ICE agents into courtrooms. Because that's not how justice is done. So the person in question, the alleged illegal migrant, was in the court that day because he was being charged with misdemeanors for a domestic dispute with him and his roommates.
Okay.
He was there to reach a deal with the county attorneys to like plea down the case or whatever, what have you.
Who have either been elected by or chosen by someone who was elected
to do that job. When we are talking about like what our justice system is supposed to do, part of it is that someone who does a crime pays their debt to society.
That's the best way to think about it, because otherwise you could easily fall into the trap of thinking about like, what you think is a just punishment for them, rather than
right.
Like, no, this is not about you and your feelings. It's about society, and this person has shown to whatever degree. This sounds like a fight with some roommates. Maybe he was the aggressor, maybe he's in the wrong, but I mean, now he's got other shit he's worrying about.
Right. But as far, because we also have on a separate side, we have civil cases wherein if you have harmed me individual to individual, I sue you for damages, right? If this case might have a corresponding civil suit wherein the people who were harmed, whether they have medical bills or property damage they have to try and recoup, this person, because despite all of this judge helped him get away, he did not get away at all.
Yeah.
Basically what had happened is, I'll come back to it, but this gentleman who has been taken by ICE and will likely be disappeared by ICE like they've been doing across the country for months now, he will not be able to pay his debt to society and possibly the debt to his roommates. So we are just allowing crimes to go unanswered and just left hanging because we want to drag this guy off. Now, did the judge actually break any laws? So Sean says this arrest was made to send a message to other judges who actually follow the Constitution. Correct. That is why Kash Patel tweeted about it and then deleted his tweet, because he knew he had said the quiet part out loud, which this is about silencing judges. This is about trying to stop the judiciary from doing their job.
What did he say exactly? Or generally,
I did not pull up the tweet in my pulling for
I
stuff
imagine
up
it was
today.
something along the lines of like, oh, well, maybe this is show, any other judges that blah, 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 something like that, maybe.
It was something to the effect of making an example of her.
Yeah.
But what she did is, I believe the clerk of her court, they heard ICE agents were outside the court to arrest this guy. because this is not something that is normally done, but is now being done. Courts across the country at the state, local, city level are having to develop policies on how to handle this, because these are courts. They do things based on policy, right? That's why they're a court. So they said, you need to talk to the chief judge. The policy is in draft. You take it up with him. But it was an administrative warrant, so they don't have a right to barge into her courtroom, and they don't have a right to take him from it either. And she's under no obligation, because they're alleging that she prevented them from arresting him. She is under no obligation to assist them in that endeavor.
Right.
Because they don't have a judicial warrant.
Yep. Just kind of like both throwing a fit with their power and, trying to intimidate anybody else.
Well, and part of that is, so she was out by the end of the day on bond. After seeing a magistrate judge on the issue, after she was arrested, she was out by the end of the day. This happened. They pressed this thing so fast, these felony charges. There has not been a grand jury convened to actually formalize federal charges. These are just entirely based on unsubstantiated allegations. And getting a grand jury to convict someone is incredibly easy. The common phrase among lawyers and legal scholars is that you can get a grand jury to convict a ham sandwich, because in a grand jury, if I'm being accused of something, I will get like a target letter, usually, unless it's being filed under seal, that says I am being targeted by a grand jury. You might have to, you're going to get a discovery request to hand over certain documents or whatever.
What if you're being targeted by Bob of the old ways?
Then you're fucked. There's no escaping his justice.
Yep.
He'll find you.
Just like Dog the Bounty Hunter. You're just
but better.
You're just
all right, you assholes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. How was your revolutionary practice?
It was very nonviolent and
good.
Yeah. Didn't tell me anything I didn't already know.
But still be good to be there in community.
Yeah. And it was step one, so no actual action was planned. It was all theory.
So when it comes to these things, in my experience in the past, was there a guy in a polo shirt and dad jeans and
that was Bob.
Friendly and a little too quiet?
That was me, yeah.
Oh. But you're not a cop.
There were.
Wait, you're not a cop, are you? You have to tell us or it's illegal. It's entrapment.
I'm not a cop. No, I'm not a cop. There were no cops there.
Okay.
We were very certain of that.
Okay.
However, the meeting was not secret. It was advertised and stuff. So there could have been informants there who were just really good at undercover, but
because in my very limited experience, like the stuff in Chicago and stuff, like there's almost always an undercover cop there, and they're almost never subtle about it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this wasn't like any kind of subversive meeting. This was basically a seminar on Martin Luther King Jr.
Sure. Okay.
And his theory of social change. And so they talked about Cesar Chavez. They talked about MLK. They talked about Gandhi. They talked about all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
They did at the end give advice on how to get arrested if you are a nonviolent protester.
Knowing how to get arrested, especially right now, is important.
Yeah.
Sadly. Speaking of getting arrested, there was no grand jury convened to formalize charges against Judge Dugan, which means they might not be able to get a grand jury to convict, which would mean that the charges would be dropped in a little bit, and this is entirely just for show. In fact, I would not be surprised if at the speed of our news cycle that in a month from now, people are going to remember that a judge was arrested. And then people on the right will assume she's been like disbarred and disrobed and defrocked and tarred and feathered. But none of that will come to pass. Because I don't think you'll get a jury, because the charges are filed in Milwaukee, right? In the district court for the federal district court for the District of Milwaukee. And you're going to struggle to get a jury here to convict on this. Especially once she has a defense attorney and she's a well-respected judge in the community. So it is highly unlikely this is going to go anywhere. And the FBI knows that. And ICE knows that. And they are just trying to assert their dominance because the Milwaukee County Court did not comply in advance.
Yeah, the entire goal here is to challenge judicial independence.
Yeah.
They want to make a test case out of this. Their goal is to promote the validity of administrative warrants and try to give them the same weight as a judicial warrant. So they want to take this case to the Supreme Court most likely.
They want to try and take it as far as they can. But to do that, because normally the government can't appeal cases once they have lost.
Yeah.
So if they lose in Milwaukee, they lose. That's it. Because that is the, at least for now, who knows if they'll try and change that, but that's how the when the federal government goes after you in federal court, they one miss and they're done. They get one strike. Other than things like mistrials and stuff, but that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. But then the question becomes, will they abide by a court's decision, which they've already demonstrated they won't do.
They will not.
So
no, they won't. But I think that now, I think it will be harder for ICE to do anything in Milwaukee's courthouse and to bring it back to what that does for community justice. That makes it much harder for people in the community to actually benefit from their courts. If you are even if you're a documented person, if you are a person here on a green card, if you're a person here on a visa, if you're a person here on a spousal exception or one of the long-term refugee programs, or even if you're an American citizen who looks wrong or is, too young and their parents might be here without documentation, because now they've been deporting those people too. We now have, I think, half a dozen cases of American citizens being deported, usually children. Let's say that you need to go to court as a witness in a crime, right? Or you would need to if you came forward with information, right? Let's say there was a violent crime in your neighborhood and you know who did it. Well, you would have to testify before court, but you don't want to go to court now because the court is no longer as safe for you as a member of the community. This is antithetical to any form of justice, any form of policing, any form of rule of law. And it just discourages people from cooperating with law enforcement in the case they actually should.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm filibustering.
I was just going to give an example of that.
Perfect.
As of right now, this could change, but as of right now, the LAPD says that it refuses to work with ICE.
Yeah.
Or any other federal immigration agency, because by doing so, they are undermining, according to them, they are undermining trust in the local immigrant community.
Yep.
Who will be afraid to come forward to the LAPD and report crimes committed against them for fear of being deported.
Right.
If they do so. So the cops in many cities around the country are agreeing with Morgan that this kind of thing undermines the rule of law and the advancement of criminal justice.
Yep.
Now, they are cops.
They're still cops.
We got to take it with a grain of salt, but these divisions right now are real and they can be exploited by activists.
Mm-hmm. And I think they will be, and I think they should be. And I think if you are someone who is not like us, who genuinely believes in our policing system and our local law enforcement, ICE is antithetical to them doing their job in a way that, even as people who don't like how policing is handled in this country, can agree with you that ICE is doing it. They are screwing up the pursuit of justice in a way that we can all agree should be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a thin blue line person, you should be opposed to ICE, because ICE is fucking with cops and fucking with judges who normally have pretty good working relationships with cops in a lot of these communities that are not just rolling over to ICE.
I wanted to call attention to a couple of comments here.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty neat. One here from Alex Doe. Thanks, Alex. YouTube pointed me this direction a few weeks back after watching you guys, gals, for a bit. I'm thankful. I used to watch Usual Suspects, Drinker, Nerdrotic, etc. You've helped me see the grift. Fucking got one.
Happy to help.
We got him. We fucking got him.
We grifted him.
Well, welcome, Alex, to the community.
Grifted him. What's up?
We just said welcome. Welcome to the community, Alex.
And then Travis, as he said before, he showed his solidarity there with this similar experience. That's what it's all about. Well, I mean, if we could have some much larger systemic effect, which isn't going to happen, that'd be great. But still, so that this is realistically what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
We like to hear from people that do have any kind of experience, whether it's a big dramatic shift from that kind of content or that kind of thinking or not, or it's just like it helped you understand a couple little things. That's good to let us know about. So,
So one more thing I want to cover with this story, because I thought it was interesting, is the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, which is the local major newspaper. There are other, I think, better community newspapers here in Milwaukee, but this is the big one. They published their editorials on their website, and so they put out letters to the editor, and we have one that as Wisconsin judge stood for due process, court should be a safe haven, and we have one where Milwaukee judge thumbed her nose at the justice system, she deserves to be punished. So it's 2 columns worth of letters, one for her arrest, one against. The one for her arrest is 2 letters long. You have letter 1, you have letter 2, and then here's the tips for getting your letter published. Okay. Here's the ICE fucking sucks section. 1 letter, 2 letters, 3 letters, 4 letters, 5 letters before we get to the tips. If the Journal Sentinel, because they are owned by a national chain, they're owned by the company that owns USA Today. If they could have both sides of this with like an equal number of letters, they'd have done it. But of the letters they got sent, 2 saying the judge should be targeted by the government, 5 saying to get bent. So for both sides in this, the majority of people are like, nah, fuck this hippie shit.
Yeah.
Tell ICE to fuck off. Which is a good sign that the majority of people are opposed to ICE and their nonsense. I'm getting old.
I agree.
I respect that.
And here's why this is good. Because it can be hard for people to find hope in situations like this.
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about on this stream a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure, and as I talked about in my training session today, or we talked about, there's been studies done on the effect of public engagement and nonviolent resistance movements on fascism.
Yeah.
And when generally speaking, when about 3.5% of the population is engaged, sustainably engaged, against an authoritarian regime, the authoritarian regime fails.
Right.
Not always, obviously, but in the majority of the cases where that has happened, it has happened because public opinion of a very small minority of the public, working with a network of nonviolent resistance movements, wins against authoritarianism in a majority of cases.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you see stuff like this in the letters column, you should take heart, because this means there's a deep well of public sentiment against these people that can be tapped in the building of a resistance movement that will win in the end.
And this is, within an hour or so of her arrest making the news.
Yeah.
There was already protests downtown. A couple hundred people showed up, along with several local community leaders and politicians from Milwaukee and the surrounding area, came in to speak against this on the steps of the federal courthouse.
Yeah.
And this is on a Friday morning. Like, who's watching the news, who's tuned in? News traveled that fast that they had a protest within an hour or so.
Yeah, and that's thanks to your local grassroots organizers who have a rapid response infrastructure in place for things just like this.
Just like this.
Yeah.
And those people have been out at protests. They just last weekend, they were doing one on the bridges where they were hanging signs from the bridges and banners from the bridges about all sorts of things. Just a lot of it isn't even specifically anti-Trump, though there is plenty of that. There's a lot of just community solidarity.
Yeah.
A lot of you're welcome here. A lot of, pride flags and immigrant flags and just signs, saying we stand with you. A lot of stuff like that. Where it is definitely more about preserving a community than it is about opposing Trump for opposing Trump's sake. We oppose Trump because he violates our community, because he wants to destroy our communities.
Yes, that is correct. We are living through history right now, folks.
Yep.
Like I want to speak as an old person right now, to the people in our audience who might be much younger than us, like in their 20s or maybe their teens. It is not always like this in the United States. This is a historical transition period.
I want to cast our minds back to the 1990s, the mid-late 1990s, and the political turmoil that surrounded
a blowjob.
A blowjob.
Yeah.
Just a blowjob.
Just the one.
I mean, well, there's also the cigar and the dress and, all the other stuff, the details of it. But I mean, specifically, it was about a blowjob and that they couldn't, like, it just was constantly being discussed. That was, we were so fucking privileged at that point. We were so spoiled for any kind of excitement that, the president had a blowjob from somebody besides his wife.
It's I forget who said it, but millennials see a generational crisis every 5 years.
Yeah. And now Gen Z as well. And
now Gen Z does as
whoever
well.
comes after them, Gen Alpha. Like we've all lived since the 2000s through multiple once-in-a-lifetime crises.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the system is starting to fall apart.
Right.
The old power structures are creaking under the weight of demographic changes that none of them want to lean into. Like they don't want to surf the wave of the demographic change. They want to build a dam and stop America from becoming a majority brown country.
That was the early 90s. I was specifically talking about like surrounding the presidency, the kind of turmoil, that comparison. But yes.
Yeah. Things have always been, okay, especially if you're a minority, things have always been kind of shitty in this country, but they haven't always been this chaotic and this tumultuous, you know.
And this like
they're shitty and they're shitty, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's a baseline level of this. It sucks to live here, and then there's a couple of levels above that where you're becoming a fascist country.
Adding,
and,
Are y'all just naming episodes that we've done? What's going on?
We've done that one and that one and that one.
That one.
And also that,
And
one.
that one.
We've done all of those, yes. Check out the Forced Adversity Podcast YouTube channel for the archives.
Yeah, I mean, or just check out my channel. It's got the playlist as well.
That's true.
Go back and watch pretty much all of them. I need to update probably the last few, but yeah.
For those of us who lived through the Clinton presidency, some of us anyway, saw the blowjob thing as a harbinger. The whole scandal, we saw that as a harbinger of things to come from the Republican Party.
I was not politically cognizant enough to see that for that, but yeah, in hindsight, obviously, it was you know, I mean, on the timeline, there's the JFK assassination, and then the blowjob is on that timeline too, believe it or not. As far as like things changing for never going back, kind of thing.
Jaybird says the war on Christmas has been going on for longer than I've been alive. That's because George Washington was the first anti-Christmas activist. Check out our War on Christmas episode.
7-Eleven of this piece.
I say this until I will continue waging the war on Christmas until Christmas agrees to stop occupying Halloween.
Absolutely.
Because I am getting really tired of walking into stores on October 30th and seeing Christmas stuff when my favorite holiday hasn't even happened yet.
Justice for Halloween.
To play Santa's advocate here, okay?
Santa's advocate.
How do you know that it's just not somebody celebrating Halloween by doing a Christmas costume kind of situation, and like you're gatekeeping Halloween by doing that? Huh?
Because I can't find Halloween candy once they put that shit up.
I have no objection to spooky Christmas things like Halloween trees or like all of the other like Christmassy things that Halloween has appropriated and turned into Halloween stuff.
Corpse hanging on the door frame.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm cool with all that. Right.
Yeah.
I like the Nightmare Before Christmas as much as everyone else does, but I'm talking about like full on red and green Santa stuff and Christmas trees being on sale October 30th.
Get it the fuck out.
Give us a day. Just one day.
No. You know what? Give us till the middle of November.
Yeah. That's why I'm an advocate of the 12 days of Creepmas, which happens the first 12 days of December, where we just make it Halloween.
Again? We just have second Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Christmas's war on other holidays needs to stop. Also, I think, I want to reach out to our Christian listeners. Easter is supposed to be your most sacred holiday.
Yes.
Everyone is born. Only one guy comes back from the dead.
Right. Easter isn't a holiday.
Supposed to be the whole thing.
Bizarre.
Easter isn't supposed to be a holiday. It's supposed to be a season, y'all.
Well, you know what?
That's true.
It's because capitalism. It makes money on Christmas, so it's like capitalism is like, oh shit, this is the new thing.
But I just I want my Christian listeners to hear me and go, put Christ back in Easter and get rid of the bunny.
Speaking of Christ,
I saw some very cute bunnies up for adoption today because it is Easter season.
Adorable.
Yeah, especially the fluffy lion mane bunnies.
That's so cute.
I did not expect that at a grassroots organizing event that lasts all day, that there would be a booth there to adopt bunnies.
Speaking of Jesus Christ,
speaking of Easter,
there he is. Pillar of garbage. There he is. I know you think Superman is just like Jesus, right, Pillar?
No,
he's got like 3 videos about how that's not the case.
Yeah, I know.
So this was a very good issue. The Summer of Superman special, number 1.
Summer of Superman special. I like the alliteration.
This kicks off the Summer of Superman. If you aren't aware, there's a movie. coming.
I've heard there might be a Superman movie.
But this is so it was Mark Waid, Joshua Williamson. Mark Waid's kind of a long term, like he's a veteran Superman writer. Joshua Williamson was kind of like a more recent, hot penman of Superman. And then you got this young chap, this young fella. It was his first ever Superman book, I think, called Dan Slott.
Mm.
He's got a future in this industry or not. But
Mr. Daniel Slott?
Yeah.
Didn't he write that book about the Webman?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
Funny enough, I have one of I don't know if it was his first, but one of his very first things that he wrote, like for Marvel, I have an issue of, and I didn't know, of course, when I was a kid, I had no idea who he was. Right. But I had the comic, and it was Ren and Stimpy #1.
Interesting.
Yep, that was Dan Slott.
I feel like people my age are supposed to know things about Ren and Stimpy, but I couldn't tell you a thing. So
it's
Webman is my favorite superhero.
Yeah, you got Web Guy, and I like Flying Strong Guy. And
Web Guy, dude. No, this is very good. Jorge Jimenez, by the way, art. He's done a lot of Batman in the last few years, and having him doing Superman is just fucking phenomenal as well. It just put me in a good Superman mode. I'll be honest. I'm not like
I heard Superman comics have been kind of crazy lately.
They have. I mean, and it seems like they're sticking with the Lois just has powers now. She just is a super.
She's Superwoman now, yeah.
Seemingly. And like in this issue, whenever something pops off, they're both just like in their costumes and off to save the day. She's
had powers a couple of times though.
It's happened before.
But I mean, this seems like it's more like no, we're not just having fun. We're making this the thing. At least for
this is going to be a mid-length story.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out because I haven't caught up yet. But she got powers and got her own title as Superwoman. Her and Lana Lang both when the new 52 Superman died.
Oh,
and because what happened with Superman is, these. You know how they did the switch to the new 52 after the Flashpoint paradox.
Yeah,
the Superman from the original timeline still existed and was working in the background secretly. And when the new 52 Superman died, his energy was distributed around the planet, and multiple new super people appeared, and one of them was the original Lois Lane, not the new 52 Lois Lane. And she got. It was a weird storyline, but
sounds like it.
She and Clark Kent from the original timeline got merged with the Superman and Lois Lane of the new 52 timeline. A bunch of other crazy shit. So anyway, yeah. So I'm wondering if this Lois with superpowers is.
I think so.
If her powers are the ones that she got from that event.
Because I think because what the point of merging them is to say, okay. Because whenever like the one of the fundamental breaking problem of the new 52 was that they basically said, here's this new awesome version that doesn't have like almost any of the experiences that you had with them, right? That one doesn't exist anymore. That was
except where they do.
Except when they do, because we really suck at communicating about this stuff. And then eventually they were like, fans were rejecting it because essentially you just had. I mean, Batman got to keep his stuff, but essentially that became like everything that ever happened to Batman happened in the span of 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
they did the same thing to Green Lantern too.
Right.
Yeah, 3 or 4 Robins happened in 5 years. Like that's crazy. That's a crazy Robin rate, man.
But like, there's already discussions about whether like Batman is a negligent parent, but like that he went through 4 Robins in 5 years that's a problem.
Okay, so David is telling us that Lois got her power from the absolute power event.
Okay.
And there's Zod's powers. Okay, that's cute.
Okay.
Absolute power event. Okay. So and anyway, but like point being, Lana, she's got some powers. She's marrying Steel, John Henry Irons in this issue.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
They're in Smallville, and some stuff pops off that kind of connects. This is 3 stories told by those 3 writers as one like overarching connected tissue story. It's done very well. If you're looking for an in on some Superman, I would recommend this. And then it took a turn because right about here, once they get the I don't want to say villain, but he's essentially a villain that is kind of slippy. He's like falling through time, and he keeps on appearing in the same spot in Smallville. Like earlier, it showed Superman when he was Superboy and dealt with it. Well, then now he's back. He blinks into existence there again. He's been falling through time, and he they're trying to figure it out. And this just goes to show like an ongoing thing that I'm seeing so much across mainstream superhero comics these days is superheroes trying to help, like actually help, and finding a way to solve problems that, like, yeah, this guy's being an asshole about what's happening to him, but he's suffering. He doesn't deserve to be caught forever in some time void falling.
Right.
So they're trying to solve that. And then at the same time, there seems to be some kind of a weather crisis in Smallville that pretty much levels a good bit of Smallville.
Hate it when that happens.
And man, art's good. It's fucking good art. Jesus Christ.
That is some cool art.
Comics is all about right there. And so they start talking about they're gonna so right here he says none of this is Validus's fault. Validus being that guy. Much like the people of Krypton, the people of my birth, we did this, all of us, of all the choices we make every day. The good news is, if we try our best, make sensible changes, and start listening to the scientists, we can still save this planet. So,
wow,
it seems like Superman's still being woke, man.
That's awesome. I love it. So now we have like Earth 1 Superman is woke, and Absolute Superman is beyond woke. He
By the way,
is the next level of woke evolution.
I think this is Earth Prime, but yeah.
Yeah, Earth. Okay, is it Earth Prime again?
Yep. If you've read the most recent issue of Absolute Superman, there's, as kind of was hinted, it's pretty heartbreaking story with the Kents, and how that played out.
That was
yeah. But I mean, I need to reread that again, but there you go. Superman, it's good. I'm not like Superman is not, despite how good my video on Superman is, he's not a character that I've like super connected with a lot. It really depends on who's writing and what's going on, whether or not I enjoy the story or not.
Yeah.
When it's done well, it's clear why he's the original. Whenever it's done really well.
I love Superman. Like, I've loved Superman all my life, and I'm really excited that people are getting excited about him again.
Mm-hmm. I like it when characters I don't normally like are good. I like it when people are enjoying them.
Yeah. Like for me, Superman has always been my second favorite superhero.
Sure.
like he was my first favorite superhero when I was a kid, but since then I have developed a list that changes over time of who my top 5 superheroes are, and Superman is always like right below whoever my current number 1 is.
Now that you mention it, Sean, it does kind of aesthetically seem to suggest a little bit of Frieza.
A little bit, yeah. I see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see if it hasn't already been done, I'd love to see a Superman Dragon Ball crossover story of some kind.
There's fan stories out there of varying
I mean,
quality.
like an official one would be really
An
cool.
official one would be very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm someone who like actively dislikes Dragon Ball. Mostly because it's just the same story over and over again.
Well, yeah, I couldn't get into the Dragon Ball Z TV show because it takes like 2 whole episodes for somebody to complete a single punch.
Right.
But I think in comics it would work. The team up would work a lot better.
Oh yeah, well, like Dragon Ball originates as a comic.
Yeah. I know that. I haven't read the comics, the manga, whatever term we're calling it. But artistically, I think it would be really,
I think
really
it would
cool.
be a fun crossover for sure.
Just watch the last 5 minutes of the Flash movie. That's
or don't. Yeah, we deserve it. Alex, you're not wrong. You're not. This timeline deserves that movie, but I'm glad we're getting the Superman we need, because I think this James Gunn Superman is going to be out of this world good.
It is really looking like it's going to be something special.
Even if like the worst that I feel like can happen with it is maybe kind of uneven and not like a cohesive thing, which I doubt. But that's like, I can't imagine it just being an overall terrible film, right?
Right.
I don't think he's got it in him.
I don't. Nothing I've seen out of James Gunn, even stuff that isn't his cape stuff, like it's all, even if it's not my jam, like some of his horror movies, I'm just not a big fan of horror. But like, they're very well done horror movies. He doesn't miss.
Right. Like, that's why I don't understand the criticism people make of that. They're worried that there are too many characters in this story. Like, have you seen James Gunn's ensemble movies before? It's never.
It's where he fucking shines.
That's where he's strongest.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that he was able to take a bunch of characters, one of them is a fucking tree, and one's a raccoon, and one of them is like just an autistic wrestler guy, and make them so compelling that you want to see more of them by the time that movie's done.
You will watch 3.5 movies with them as the starring characters, and they will play major roles in 2 Avengers movies.
I did not expect when I went into Guardians of the Galaxy that Rocket Raccoon would be my emotional hook for that entire trilogy.
So good.
And then the third movie just broke me, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
The second movie is the only one that made me cry.
Yeah.
And that's because like that movie came out a month after my grandpa's funeral. And so when Yondu's funeral starts and all the other Ravager ships show up, I fucking lost it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one is.
It had no right to be as good as it was. It really didn't.
There is no reason that movie is as good as it is. And it was so good they gave Peacemaker a TV show.
Like, you know, that's the thing with James Gunn is it's like some people keep counting them out. Like, oh, I don't know if you can do it. Every single time this guy has done a batshit idea, like a weird thing, including taking over the creative DC films,
right?
He seems to fucking nail it, and that's just where he shines. Speaking of shining, this is just a random, decades old recommendation, but I was looking at some Silver Surfer stuff, considering all of the Silver Surfer talk lately.
Yeah,
I realized I had never read this, and if you might have heard me tell the story before about Silver Surfer being the first superhero really that I got into that I ever read. Like,
yeah, it's the first comic book you got.
Yep. I mean, I'd read like some dumb comics before, like Ren and Stimpy and Police Academy and crap like that, but Silver Surfer was one that I read. I remember the issue and everything. It's just completely had no idea what was going on. Really, I think it was a little bit before Thanos Quest, that issue, but I'd never read Silver Surfer Requiem before.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend it, but also it is brutal. It is sad, and it is exactly what the name implies.
Is it a Straczynski book?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He's just spoiler really, but it's not really because it tells you pretty much right up the first page he is dying.
Right.
And it's not like we need to find a way to save him. This is what he does before he dies and up until the moment that he dies. And it's fucking pretty profound. Spider-Man's in it. Fantastic Four in it. Yeah, it's good. Oh, what's her name? Shellaball is in it.
Oh,
his woman. Yeah, he goes back to his in-law, and Galactus is in it.
That makes sense. If I feel like you can't tell a death of the Silver Surfer comic without getting some Galactus in it, just because that's
but when you man, there's something about reading Galactus having an emotional moment that is like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Like this guy changed me,
right?
Wow, yeah, that's cool.
It's good shit.
That's pretty cool.
Ladybird color scheme.
I don't remember that. I'm not a Silver Surfer person, so.
Oh, you're talking about the all red art stuff. It seemed kind of fun. I read like maybe 1 or 2 issues of it. He just kind of was stuck with this random human chick flying through the cosmos or whatever.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Just him doing Silver Surfer stuff and her just sort of being the point of view character.
Yeah, and literally like the covers, depicting her like hanging on just barely to his board as he's going through some crazy situation or something. And
that's a fun cosmic adventure story. Yeah, I dig that.
So yeah, she got Chained Echoes. Never heard of that.
I've never heard of that.
Me either.
And I did get the trade of this, which I talked about whenever it was coming out issue by issue. But I would recommend this to anybody that wants a good. If things in the world, or specifically in this country, the U.S. are as my buddy used to say, he used to try and get the phrase to take off. He wanted people to start saying "fucking me down." This thing is really fucking me down. Didn't really work for him. But if the country, the state of things is fucking you down, check out Avengers Twilight. It's one of those kind of hopeful kind of books. And literal fascism has taken over.
Yeah, you've mentioned this before. Like, yeah, when the first couple issues came out, Chip Zdarsky is a good writer.
Damn sure is. Damn good writer. One of the greats.
I haven't heard anything about it. Is Avengers versus Aliens still going on?
Yeah, it's like that one and then the Wolverine Revenge book were only coming out like every other month, basically.
Sure. Okay.
Maybe Avengers Aliens is even less because it's Hickman, but it's also Saad Ribic is doing the art. So it's
so it's taking forever. Okay.
Yes.
And now they're going to bring in a Predator to kill the Marvel universe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about next. Because they're definitely doing
Marvel
that.
universe.
So there was a Predator versus Wolverine.
Sure.
Last year, I covered that. That was in continuity, meaning that it ties the Predator into several points in Wolverine's history. First, before he was just a savage living out in the wilds of Canada, encountered him the first time, barely survived.
Sure.
Second time was whenever he had undergone the Weapon X procedure. And that's when the Predator became very interested in him because he wanted the medal that he had.
For sure. Yeah, that tracks.
So, yeah, they fought again then. And then again, one more time, I think it was in more recent times at the X Mansion. Like Wolverine had to kind of lead the Predator away from the children, that, Kitty Pryde, basically a teenager there and stuff. But they actually did help him fight the Predator too.
That's cool.
As the X-Men would do. Then now they've just started Predator. Well, they did Predator and Black Panther, which I have not read yet, but apparently the Predators they settle on a different metal, and they plunder Black Panther Wakanda for some of that vibranium. So now they've got some of this Earth metal that's awesome. It is a different Predator each time. Well, not in the Spider-Man. I mean, not in the Wolverine one, but
Wolverine's same Predator over decades.
Yeah. Okay. I think it was multiple Predators in the Black Panther one.
Okay. See, I think it'd be funny with the Wolverine one if like the end of that story is just like it comes after Wolverine in the Krakoa era, and it's just like a never-ending tide of mutants until this guy dies.
It's like, why would they just die?
How many times have I killed Wolverine? Wait, how many Wolverines have I killed?
And now we got, by the way, these are all by Benjamin Percy. This guy is clearly having the time of his life. I've read a thing where he talked about he can't believe that he gets to write this shit.
I bet he is the biggest fucking geek. I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, he's a. I encountered Ben Percy when he did the Rebirth run of Green Arrow, which is what made Green Arrow my favorite superhero. He's so good. And he always brings some kind of horror elements.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever kind of story he's telling, he always includes horror elements.
It's always fun at the same time.
Yeah.
His Helverine, like, come on, man, that's the most comic book shit that ever comes.
Helverine is so fucking comic book. I love it.
So yeah. Well, I mean, that depends because Spider-Man's not trying to kill the Predator. Predator's trying to kill him.
Right.
Yeah.
Aliens versus the Brood when? That's just an Ouroboros eating its own tail.
Yeah, I feel like Marvel wants to avoid that comparison, actually.
I would imagine they don't want to draw attention to that too close.
I mean, it's not like they're going to get sued now, but you know, they feel lucky that they didn't get sued before they owned or were co-owned by the same brand.
I think they worked pretty hard to make the Brood like more intelligent and like how their infection worked was different, but
I think Claremont has even said that he went and saw Aliens and then was like, I'm gonna do that in X-Men, basically.
I'm doing that in X-Men because they will let me do fucking anything in X-Men because I'm Chris Claremont.
Because they're just letting me write this book forever, I guess. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, I will say on balance, the Predator crossovers with Marvel characters have been better than the ones they've done with DC characters.
Yes.
Sure. That fits more. Like I'm trying to think of like what DC character I would even think that would be like a fun story. I guess like Lobo.
They did Batman.
They did Batman and
Batman.
Superman with aliens, which was pretty cool because it was a story where like Superman was far enough from the sun that he was losing his powers throughout.
Oh,
So
okay. Interesting.
That was Superman Aliens.
That's what it was. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, the Superman Predator crossover was terrible.
There was this legitimately awesome moment though with Superman Aliens when he's got his powers back right as this alien was about to bite him or whatever, and like he puts his hand out and the alien just fucking shatters its teeth on his hand.
Yeah,
it's excellent.
And that was a good story too, because like Spider-Man versus the Predator, Superman figured out that the aliens are run by a sentient being, the Queen, and he will not kill sentient beings.
Right.
So his whole moral dilemma there was how to save the day without killing the alien queen.
I will say this: I kind of agree, Screwface. I mean, like it's been fine, but it's like it seems to be so epically focused, which it's Hickman, that it's almost lost the plot of what we're trying to see happen. It's like
they're like it's a big epic story, but it feels like it's going too slow and too fast.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They left Earth. That took a couple of issues. Then they get to Krakoa, which is or Mars or whatever.
Right.
In this timeline, which is the better timeline, obviously. Even though the aliens come, I'd still take it.
No, because Araco is still there currently. Like no one has shut down Araco. That's still there. Yeah.
Have we all seen
this time? Like all of the X-Men are there too. Like,
right.
All the X are there. Yeah. This issue is much like Predator 2. It's like Spider-Man as Danny Glover almost is what it's kind of comes up as. It's hot. The city's real hot. There's a blackout, which was my idea for a plot for the third Spider-Man film that they didn't do, but okay. I had the idea.
I was just asking if we have all seen the trailer for Predator Badlands.
I have not yet.
Oh.
If
maybe we should watch it.
That might be worth a watch on the way out. Yeah.
The coolest thing that happened with this was, because it really this kind of claim honestly doesn't say anything because it really matters how it's written and what the setup is. And in the setup in this story is that before they even really got to Earth, they were kind of like it was designed so that they would overwhelm the Earth. And they can fight them for a while, but when there's so many of them that eventually all it takes is one person getting impregnated or whatever, then shit happens. But like I will say that the opening scene of, I don't remember if it was the opening scene for sure, but maybe not, the second scene. So whenever a representative of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is talking to old, immobile, infirmed Tony Stark, who's selling his company to them, and that's how you're introduced to this Tony Stark, and it's like, oh man, it's sad. No, it turns out though, he's on these motherfuckers that have come from another dimension, to try to take over this dimension with these aliens, whatever the fuck it is, and he gets the best of them. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because the guy's like an android and he fucks him up, and it was cool.
Aliens Earth, I'm looking forward to that, man. I haven't watched any I watched the first trailer that really showed nothing. It was just like the alien kind of flipping through the thing as the ship fell or whatever. I don't know anything about it, but I'm a huge Aliens fan, huge Xenomorph fan. It is the perfect specimen in the universe,
I am,
and this is where they should have taken the story decades ago. The Xenomorphs making it to Earth is what everyone has been wanting from this story since the second movie, I think.
That's where they made an advertisement for that happening for Alien 3 before they came out about what they were doing. Alien 3 is a really interesting production story. But
I've heard it's quite tumultuous. And I want to address Alex's comment as to being up to date on comics. Alex says I'm not up to date on the comics. The fun part about comics is you never need to be up to date.
It really is true. It's
like
almost
once I realized I didn't have to be up to date on comics, I could just read them when I was in the mood. And like there's like the Marvel Unlimited app and stuff. Oh, it's life changing. Am I one of the only one?
I liked it as a kid when I didn't know any better. But like I didn't understand what made, as an adult and who sees the aliens as the superior film. And they did kind of fuck over several character arcs and character closures from the previous film. It's kind of shitty.
It like I think on its own terms, it's a fine movie, but as part of the franchise and everything that the second movie set up, Alien 3 is trash.
Yeah, it's the sort of a meta thing, right? Where it's just like the movie that they were initially promising and the movie they delivered are not the same movie. And
well, the off-screen deaths of
Right.
Of Hicks, Newt,
yes,
was terrible. That was a terrible creative decision.
So
I'm okay with killing those characters off, but
in the movie, but not
it on
off screen.
yeah.
Yeah.
So before we do Badlands, have you guys seen the Killer of Killers trailer?
Yes, that's awesome too.
Have I? Which?
It's the animated Predator movie.
Yes,
that's
I
coming
have.
out between now and Badlands. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I have seen that trailer. Yeah, great actors, great acting, terrible continuity. Yeah, that about sums it up. We'll probably have to pause it a few times at the link just to like stop the AI from coming after us.
Yeah, so this trailer this trailer this is like the surprise Predator project that nobody knew they were working on. They knew Predator Badlands was coming, and then they just sprung this on everybody else, and this is like,
this looks fucking cool.
Yeah, after watching Prey and the entire fan base going, okay, give us an anthology series of historical predators, they said, okay, here you go. And I love that it's animated because they can do things in animated visually that they can't do in live action, or at least they can do it cheaper. And this just looks amazing.
I mean, yeah, like the fact that Prey was so good, I'm very grateful because the Predator is definitely a anthology series is the thing to do with the concept, right?
Yeah.
People were screaming, show us Predator versus Viking, show us Predator versus ninjas and samurai, and
the answer is yes, do it all.
Yeah.
Aliens would work too, because that's what Marvel's been doing in the comics with Aliens for a few years now, since they got Alien comics. Is they're just like, here's a little maxi series run of, here's some new characters that are doing this specific context and introduced, and oh, there's an alien, and it works from what I've read. But yeah, this one in particular, Predator, just throughout history, come on, they set it up in the movies, it's right there.
Oh,
they're finally doing it.
This looks so fucking cool.
You are old enough now.
And I think that character, pause it for a second, the Native American character they showed, the Code Talker, I think that character is canonically a descendant of Naru from Prey.
That's cool.
Well, that makes sense, like how they're passing down the story, right?
The story, yeah.
About the monster.
I love the cloaking effect. This is the scene that gets me.
Yeah.
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah, like a Predator dogfighter. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Kill it, or it will kill us all.
I'm glad they're not shying away from the blood and stuff.
No, they are not.
I think that the dogfighter one is the one I'm most interested to see the story of, because that is like that's just never been done in the Predator formula before, and that looks amazing.
I think it's fun as someone who's not a big fan of Predator.
Mhm.
Like I like Predator, but I wouldn't describe myself as a fan of Predator. Just go, this looks fucking cool. Like I have no like fan baggage. Like
I really don't either. Like I don't. I mean, I'm definitely a fan. I would say I'm a fan of the concept more than I am of the franchise.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
yes. Absolutely.
it's just one of those things where it's like the concept is so fucking cool, and it's just at its base level an awesome, and it has so much potential that even if some of the movies haven't used that potential very well, that you still want to see it done justice, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And this project shows that the people currently doing the franchise get it, right? In my opinion, the only two truly good Predator movies are the first one and Prey.
Yeah.
And Prey leaned into everything that made the first one good and established a thematic.
With Danny Glover or something? What's your deal? What are you talking about? Predator 2 exists, man.
I liked Predator 2 when it came out, but I tried rewatching it recently and I just could not connect with it. It
is not nearly.
But I will grant it is not a bad movie. I don't want to say
right. This is like when I'd say like I'm not a fan. Like Predator 2 is a movie that exists. It was okay. I think the first Alien vs Predator movie was okay. I never saw the second one because the first one was just like that's a movie I saw. I don't really have
like Predator, the movie Predators.
I haven't seen that one.
Was a cool concept.
Okay,
it was almost good. Yeah,
almost good.
It almost got there, but Prey is the movie that made me a fan of the franchise.
Sure,
and I'm glad to see them leaning into the historical aspect. Because what I wanted out of the franchise after that was more projects where some currently existing culture whose language is dying off or something like that gets a project in the Predator universe where they get to preserve their language or their culture in some way, the way that Prey did.
Yeah.
And this animated movie is not quite that, but it is leaning into that demand from the fan base, and I love to see it.
Even if the Predators didn't really completely stick the landing. I would have loved if it had the original planned ending, which would have had Dutch sitting on the throne whenever they got there or whatever.
Right. Like I wanted to see
that'd have been funny.
Like a Predator sequel with Arnold back as Dutch would have been cool as hell.
That would be very cool.
Very end, and he's just like, "Oh, you made it," you know. But like they did have some stuff in it that they obviously were already starting to get the idea of what they needed to do. As in, like Robert Rodriguez directed it, generally a pretty solid director anyway.
Yeah.
But like you know, there's the Japanese guy with the samurai sword scene fighting. You know, he doesn't last too long, but does set it up of like, okay, that you start to see the seeds of what we're now seeing coming out, right? Like of Predator fighting different types of warriors and than we're used to.
Predators had to fall so Killer of Killers could fly.
Right. And what Predators did wrong with that scene, I think, is forgot that what made the first movie work and what makes Prey work is that a peak human
can't do it.
Still has no chance in a straight up fight against one of the Predators.
Right.
They have to think outside the box to win.
Right.
And that scene just made it like, oh, this guy with the samurai sword is the equal of this Predator in hand-to-hand combat. And no way.
No, miss me with that. Because Arnold doesn't win because he's the strong guy. He wins because he outthinks him and outmaneuvers him.
And he gets lucky.
And he gets lucky too. Yeah.
It's so same thing with Prey to a degree, but it's skill and luck. But like that's what me and Ryan have talked about, and this is my fault, not his. That doing like a video or stream together where we talk about the McTiernan 1-2 punch of Predator and Die Hard being like kind of this statement of against the type of masculinity that had presented itself in films at that point. Because you know, so you got Predator first, which is like, okay, you got the biggest, buffest motherfuckers in Hollywood. And they just get destroyed by this fucking aliens.
Yeah.
They can't, you know, they got the biggest guns too. Nope, doesn't matter. And then only one of the guys manages to fucking barely win. You know, and that's only because he injures the thing enough that it's just like, all right, I'm gonna blow myself up now.
Right.
You know, and then a year later, somehow, Die Hard comes out. You know, and
Die Hard's the anti-action movie.
Right. There was a lot of controversy about him being cast because he's just some guy.
He's a comedy actor, like.
Yeah, they're both movies are now that you bring it up, frame it that way, both of them could be read as deconstructions of the 80s masculine ideal.
Absolutely.
I mean, we looked at it and we were like, man, that'd be a really good video or streamed a discussion or whatever. But yeah, this is a disturbing thing to think about. Thank you for that. Movies.
Yeah, there is a.
Okay, that works. I'll buy that read of it. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think
Still,
about that later.
still not a good movie, but yeah.
True Lies is the greatest action movie.
Here's what the Predator franchise needs to do now.
Badlands.
Okay, let's watch Badlands first, and then we'll
watch Badlands.
What do we got?
So look at the skulls. Look very carefully at the skulls, particularly the one in the middle.
Can you
explain? That is the,
from 8?
Yes, it is.
Oh my god. Welcome to Earth, you know?
That's cute.
And then I guess I'm not really seeing anything else that stands out really.
The T-Rex.
Yeah.
It's not quite a T-Rex, but I think it suggests some kind of theropod.
Yeah.
From Earth. Yeah.
Like that's a giant human right there, over on the left. Like there's the regular-ish looking skull and backbone, then there's like above it. What the fuck is going on there? Anyway, all right.
I didn't think you survived.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was Elle Fanning playing a Weyland-Yutani android.
Oh shit!
Oh,
that's from the other franchise.
We're going we're going places.
Okay. I love that I don't understand. This is like the future, but it's also just the future for the Predators too. So they've got glowy swords and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
You're hunting something that can't be killed.
Oh fuck.
Are we following a fucking predator in this movie?
Yes, we are. The Predator is the protagonist in this movie.
I was going to say, it looks like they're setting him up as that.
Yeah. And the presence of a Weyland-Yutani android implies that this is a future where the Predator species and humans have some kind of
interaction.
Some kind of interaction that isn't killing each other.
Well, then again, like, does a Predator care about hunting an android, right? Like, maybe they're just like, well, whatever, this is a fucking toaster. I don't care.
Yeah.
Toasters are useful. Like guns.
I mean, I imagine that to them, like, even if they want it to be a very well-programmed machine so they can beat that too, right?
Yeah. All right, I'm sold.
That looks cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's cool. Yeah. And so anyway, here's what the Predator franchise needs to do next, because if you think about what's going on in all of these movies, these predators are basically big game hunters.
Yeah.
Okay. Which implies that there's a whole bunch of people on their home planet who aren't big game hunters. They're just like
people,
working stiffs and office schlubs.
Right.
So we need Predator, the office. And just like, or Predator Office Space, like a bunch of predators who've got beer bellies and grimy suits standing around the water cooler in an office complaining about Tad, the big game hunter who always goes off to other worlds and brings home trophies.
Oh no, I've got it.
Shut the fuck up about it.
I've got it. I'm gonna do you one better. We need a Predator movie that is about like their version of like Chopped. Where it's just like They have to, like, the big game hunters bring these exotic meats and foods back to their planet, and they have contests to see who makes the best dish, and those who are chopped are literally cut in half.
Cake boss. That's all I'm saying. And then also, look, people aren't going to like me for saying this, but if it gets to the point where, look, they just need the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just not bringing in the money anymore. You know, Daredevil, man, versus Predator, like
Daredevil. That would actually be cool,
live action.
though.
Yeah,
or just like Daredevil versus this Predator would be good too. Let me see.
Fuck you.
But I mean, so given that they now own
both
properties, I think they're not anytime soon, but eventually a live action crossover of the Predator and or Alien franchise with the MCU is inevitable.
Well, just think of how many Warner Brothers Scooby-Doo meets Batman things there are.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that, but rated R.
I mean, by the way, Batman Ninja Turtles is excellent. Both the comic books and the animated film version are very good. If you haven't seen one of those,
I have not. Predator versus Blade, Alex suggests that would be a cool one.
Yeah.
Let's just cross over with Star Wars too.
Yeah, why not?
Star Wars would be fun. Yeah.
I do have to get going though, guys. It is after 8, and I need to get kids in. You know, one of them needs to get a bath and get ready for school and get in bed and stuff. So,
all right,
all right.
Thanks
we'll
for
catch you next time.
Glad we got to shit on RFK Jr. And
yeah,
that's my impression. I'm getting pretty good. I think I nailed it.
I think so. You're working on it. You're working on
it. One last thing about that before you go, because I was listening to the stream before I came in, and you failed to mention the most important point of the autism story about why there's there's more diagnoses of autism now than there were in the past. And I mentioned this in the Discord.
Because of vaccines.
No. It's because autists get all the pussy.
That's
right.
It.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Look, it's true. Look, we just on in general, there is a spectrum, so there's not like a monolith or anything, but in general, we understand we are very empathetic people compared to our neurotypical peers. We also understand systems and complex, more complex systems of things, including how to create orgasms. So, there you go. That's a fucking formula.
I would like to see your meta study on that when you get the chance.
We're going to outbreed all of you. Yeah. And it's not autism, baby. It's aurism.
Yeah.
All right. On that note,
my son literally has a shirt with a capybara on it that says "Rism with the Tism." It's fucking great. Love that kid. All right. And because I haven't played it yet, I will play this clip on the way out the door. Please subscribe to Bob the Old Way. Subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the FAPcast channel. Subscribe to all those channels in the down below box thing. Maybe down there, but it's up there in the upper echelons of content. So I'm going to work on that as a catchphrase. Have a lovely week. We'll see you on definitely Wednesday for the Shillcast. If not before, maybe. Who knows?
You'll see me Sunday on the FAPcast.
And you'll see Bob whenever Bob does Bob stuff. And Morgan,
whenever I feel like it.
You'll see me
you'll
on
see
Sunday.
A video from me tomorrow, and I think maybe Bob is in that one.
Ooh,
so, yeah.
All right, take it easy, folks.
Peace. Bye. I heard Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think he's trying to cure us. I think he's got a cure for us in mind or something like that. It's like, hey, man, fucking cool. But no, I don't need to be cured. I'm going to say it, Morgan. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say the N word. No, I'm not neurodivergent. I'm neurosuperior, motherfucker. Almost went down the Fandom Menace rabbit hole and then found Matt Jarbo. Years before Phase 4, watched a few videos of Geeks and Gamers, but they almost got me. I also have autism. Yeah, and so this is actually something that I'm going to be real, and I've said this before about like comic skaters and stuff, and some people got kind of upset about it. And it's like, I'm not saying this obviously as an insult because I am on the spectrum. There are a lot of autistic fan like comic skaters and I imagine Fandom Menace people and stuff like that. That's like an extra level to this shit that really pisses me off about these guys. Is it's not just that they're preying on people, they're preying on people who are, you know, that often have trouble socializing or you know, hyperfixate on fan stuff to the detriment of socialization, which I've been known to do in the past and sometimes still do. And those are the types of people that often become, you know, marks for those people. And that pisses me the fuck off. Because, you know, you get a platform, and rather than see it as a way to reach people that you can actually benefit them, like you're just thinking about how can I stuff my pockets and then also serve my political agenda. And so basically I can form these people's minds into whatever I want it to be because I'm affirming something in them that essentially is based on a lie in the first place. In a lot of cases, like the lie being wokeness is destroying this or that or whatever. It's all bad because wokeness, and then every lie that you tell them after that feeds that initial lie, and it's creating this fucking false reality for these people. Yeah, by the way, fucking a lot of people, I appreciate this. I do. It's really awesome. Like the fact that I've managed to find to pull together an audience with so many people with ASD, trans, non-binary, queer people. Like, it's not like I meant to, but you know, it's awesome.
Stuff about it that, I would say is cause for concern, considering some of the rumors that we've heard about it. This trailer definitely doesn't do anything to squash those rumors. In fact, I think it kind of lends more credibility to them. I'm not going to do a full watch and react. I'm just going to kind of go through this and pick out some of the parts that I think kind of stand out to me, or some of the stuff.
I'm not going to do a full watch and react. I'm just going to go through and like nitpick things out of context and that confirm my bias of what I already was told by NEUROSUPERIOR, and I'm going to think about this.
Sounds like we got a real problem out here. Any of you incel, QAnon, 4chan, Snyder Cut motherfuckers want to get on a line now? Anybody? I think so.